Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Salam.
Hai Nuha. Okay. Adam ada. Kita ada student nama Adam ya?
Alamak doktor, sorry saya tak tukar nama adik.
Okey, tak I ingatkan anak I terkejut. Rasa dia tak bagi link tadi kat anak-anak. I takut anak I ni tak apa saja gurau. It's okay. So how are you guys?
Everything's fine.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Great. Okay, good. Okay. Apa ni despite the 8K today kan? But alhamdulillah you are doing good. So lega I dengar. Okay. So week 9 dah. Oh. Sepertinya dia selalu week 9 sebab orang tak sabar nak cuti, nak semester break kan. Okay. So first of all, terima kasih kepada anda semualah kerana being so sporting. Okay, buat kelas malam and of course I dengan rela hati untuk buat kuliah malam sebab rasanya siang macam tak ada masa. Okay, bukan apa. Today I terpaksa anjak ke malam sebabkan masalah ataupun isu bilik lah, logistik dekat rumah I ni. So bila sekolah dia orang very actively PDPR, so memang they need a room, conducive bilik, ada stable internet, meja dan sebagainya kan. So suasana yang sunyi, so mamanya have to sacrifice lah. And you guys also kena sabar sikit lah dengan ni, but insyaAllah next week dah start PDPR. But unfortunately minggu depan in fact I dengan Dr. Danila, we gonna have a 2 weeks course untuk kami punya pejawatan lah. So on Tuesday tu our kursus will be pagi dan petang, so mungkin kita kena tukar masa jugalah hari Selasa minggu depan nanti tak apa timing I akan update you guys from time to time. Right? Ni semua dah makan ke?
Dah makan.
Alright, good. Apa ni? Okay, so hari ni mungkin saya tak nak cakap banyak, tak nak spend lama sangat lah sebab dah malam and tomorrow is weekend kan, so you all pun nak rehat. Okay, hari ni kita akan sentuh tentang the next development, okay, dalam bagi kanak-kanak pertengahan dan juga akhir, iaitu perkembangan kognitif ataupun cognitive development cognitive development in middle and late childhood. Alright, so kalau tengok dekat gambar-gambar tu pun cuba anda bayangkan anda dulu macam mana sewaktu anda memakai uniform ni kan. So anda boleh lihat of course physically boleh ingat balik lah daripada kecil mana sehingga ke tinggi mana, dan dari segi perkembangan kognitif pun mungkin kadang kita tak perasan, tapi kalau kita cuba sit back and then look back at your development or your achievement, maybe in academic ataupun in non-academic kan, so nampak perbezaan dari segi fizikal, dari segi perkembangan kognitif, dari segi kemahiran anda menguasai the social skills ataupun the social emotional lah. You became more control, you have that self control, and then you can regulate your emotions quite well during this time lah. Less tantrum berbanding dengan awal-awal kanak-kanak awal dulu kan. So and again waktu ni adalah waktu eksperimen yang kita buat macam-macam, we start to explore So lebih kepada perkembangan kognitif untuk malam ini. I record tak? Ni nampak ada tanda record tak?
Nampak. Ada record.
Ada.
Sebab apa ni, I tak nampak kat sini. Okay, dah. Itu je. Alright. So again, kognitif, Piaget memang dua perkara yang tidak boleh dipisahkan. Okay. So ingat balik yang anda belajar dulu, anda belajar sebelum ini kan. So kita now dah masuk kepada tahap concrete operational, iaitu tahap operasi konkret yang bermula pada kategori umur ini, iaitu kanak-kanak pertengahan dan akhir, di mana di antara berusia 7 ke 11 tahun, iaitu darjah 1 sehingga ke darjah 5, lebih kurang macam itulah. So apa yang ada pada tahap ini? Kan? You tengoklah dia pegang air tu pun kita dah boleh tahu dah. Kalau mana mungkin susah, mana yang susah nak hafal tu, you tengoklah gambar dia pegang air tu. So antara perkembangan pesat yang berlaku pada tahap ini adalah dari segi conservation, penukaran liquid. Dia dah tahu dah yang mana yang banyak, yang mana sikit, ataupun yang mana yang sebenarnya sama walaupun diletakkan di dalam 2 gelas yang berbeza saiz dan ketinggian. So itu adalah salah satu kriteria lah, karakteristik of the skills ataupun the acquired skills di dalam concrete operational stage. Okay, so ini ada video, pautan video yang anda boleh tengoklah lepas ni kan, dan mungkin refresh baliklah ilmu yang telah anda belajar. Okay, so kalau according to Piaget, right, so concrete operational stage ni dia bermula daripada 7 hingga ke 11 tahun, dan there are few characteristic yang represents the development di dalam tahap ini, tahap konkret, operasi konkret ini. Okay, so waktu ini bila kanak-kanak tu start masuk start masuk ke tahun 1 kan, so kita nampak even dari segi percakapan pun dah berbeza. Even dari segi pemikiran, apabila dia start to think and start to convey apa yang dia fikirkan tu pun kita dah boleh nampak dia punya perkembangannya kan. So antaranya ialah kebolehan dia melihat apa yang dia nampak, iaitu the reversible mental actions are applied to real concrete objects. Kalau sebelum ni apa yang dia nampak depan mata itu hanyalah itu, tetapi dia boleh memanipulasikan the objects, okay, into a real setting. So they have that concrete thinking ability, okay, and the child is able to focus on several characteristics at once. Okay, kalau dulu kalau tengok transition from sensory motor kan, and then all this peekaboo, all this nampak benda yang sama tetapi mungkin susunan plasticine tu agak kelebih sikit, sebenarnya saiz sama, so dia nampak apa yang ada. Tapi masuk kepada tahap ini, okay, dia dah boleh sort of have a overall view kan, tapi belum lagi concrete. Okay, so another one is the serration series. Serration is the ability to order stimuli along a quantitative dimension. Okay, kalau dalam konteks diberi beberapa maybe beberapa batang lidi, beberapa batang straw kan, pelbagai saiz. So when we ask them to susun according to ascending punya ketinggian ke kan, panjang pendek tu they can do it. Alright, and transitivity is the ability to logically combine relations to understand certain conclusion. Alright, so ini kalau kita tengok kan, cuba you tengok buku-buku tahap tahun 1, tahun 2 kan, so dia dah mula tu have this kebat punya elemen lah. Okay, in terms of problem solving and decision making, so elemen-elemen tu memang dah ada dalam silibus kurikulum pelajar-pelajar sekolah rendah. In fact daripada 6 tahun pun ada juga, kalau beli buku-buku yang a bit high standard, they have started to introduce all these mental actions lah, all these karakteristik yang diuji, yang sepatutnya diperolehi pada kanak-kanak yang berusia ini. And then kalau transitivity ni, it's how 3 straws have different lengths, understanding how one is longer than other. So dia berkait dengan transitivity. Okay. Okay, so another important aspect ataupun ability ataupun the acquired skills that is expected from a child at this age is this classification. Okay, so kalau tengok dekat gambar rajah tu, agak-agak dia ni nak cerita apa pasal classification, which is an important ability dalam concrete operational thinking ni, stage. Alright? So kalau tengok dekat situ boleh baca kan? Ni adalah apa dalam bahasa Melayu kita bila kita buat projek buku scrap lah apalah, ni adalah kita panggil, kita kenali sebagai salah-silah keluarga ataupun the family tree. Alright. So saya rasa kalau dalam silibus sekolah rendah, kalau ikut anak-anak saya punya projek sekolah rendah as early as darjah 3 kot dia orang dah ada projek apa tu membuat salah-silah keluarga kan. So daripada datuk, mak ayah dia, kemudian adik-beradik dia, so dia boleh manipulate which one comes first and dia nampak the relation. So itu rasanya tak ingat darjah 2 atau darjah 3, lebih kurang macam itulah, but tahap pertama kan. So dah embed, maknanya in terms of cognitive development tu memang it is sync with the theory, the psychological theory. So classification ni kalau you baca dekat situ kan, is a family tree of 4 generation, right? And the pre-operational child has trouble classifying the members of the 4 generation. Kalau kita minta A adalah datuk, okay? So A tu adalah datuk kita, okay? Datuk kepada budak ni lah. And then datuk ni mempunyai 3 orang anak, right? Betul kan? 3 orang anak, and then 3 orang anak ni mempunyai 2 orang anak lagi bagi setiap. So nampak ada layer, right? And then salah seorang daripada cucu datuk ni, kita boleh cerita kan, oh ni cucu dan cicit dan sebagainya kan, atuk saudara sebagainya. So because we have already developed the concrete ability, and more than that actually kan, it depends dengan kita punya ability to think lah, how fast can we think, okay? And then cucu dia pula melahirkan J tu ada pula lagi 3 orang anak. So kita classify as cicit lah kan, betul tak? Datuk, anak, cucu, cicit, betul kan? Alright, so kalau kita tanya budak yang pre-operational, okay, minta mereka bercerita, so what is the relationship and mungkin kita tanya what is the relationship between B and C, mungkin dia boleh jawab lah, tapi B and F ataupun B and K for example, so across tu, so tak boleh, right? But the concrete child, kalau kita tanya budak yang dalam kategori ini, okay, they can easily classify the members vertically, horizontally and obliquely, so up and down and across. So dia tahu apa relationship ni dengan ni, cousin, first cousin, second cousin kan. And for example, the concrete operational child understands that a family member can be a son, a brother and a father at all the same time. Meaning B is also a son to A and B is also a father to E, F, right? And uncle to G, H, blah blah blah. Nampak? So nampak dia connection. Itu anak kanak-kanak yang dalam kategori kanak-kanak pertengahan dan juga akhir. So remember, classification is also an important ability, right? Lepas tu bila kita tengok, so bila kita besar sikit, mulalah belajar penaklukan mantik kan, all this ni sama dengan ni equivalent tu apa kan. So bermula daripada sini, right? Okay, so ni apa So the concrete operational stage of cognitive development, what is this? I think it's okay. This link, okay, I find it helpful because dia menerangkan secara jelas tentang apa itu concrete operational dan what are the example and activities that we can that the parents can do to train the kids. So you cuba copy paste and then just baca it's healthline.com. Okay. Alright. So bila kita bercakap tentang kognitif perkembangan, yes, it is, one of it is according to Piaget, but what lies under that Piaget thingy, it's all this above this. So it's about the information processing. How does an information process, okay, apabila kanak-kanak itu melihat sesuatu benda, okay, ataupun terdedah dengan any kind of stimuli. So how does the kid react, and then macam mana dia proses, right? So in middle and late childhood, most children dramatically improve their ability, much better. The ability to sustain and control attention becomes much better and improved, right? So they have more tu macam kata benda ni along the way, maknanya it is synchronized together with your self control, your self regulation, so it comes all together in line. And for a normal child, ingat normal child, it is different dengan those yang ada any developmental delay, right? So now we are talking about a normal child. So they pay more attention to task relevant stimuli. So whenever they engage in any kind of task, that comprise that memerlukan mereka melakukan sesuatu kan, tekun, especially mungkin bila bercakap tentang aspek permainan, when they need to form a Lego for example, ataupun a sort of robot ke, ataupun mungkin contoh kalau budak-budak, kalau anak saya dia main, seorang tu number 2 dia main Gundam tu, tepung gandum, saya cakap gandum, marah dia, Gundam tu, yang mana yang mungkin yang boys ataupun yang girls towards that, dia tahu macam mana complicatednya. Kita yang adults pun kita tengok, this is like so complicated. Bila you buka, cuba you search Gundam tu apa, dia memang macam Transformers tetapi lain. So bila dia nak buka je box tu, dia kena, dia punya apa tu, they attach together tu, nak buka tu pun satu hal, and then benda tu very very small. So itu adalah activity yang actually requires the children to pay extra attention, kan, because they need to siapkan kerja itu. So dalam proses menyiapkan kerja itu, of course the target, the outcome will be benda tu siap. But along the way, the whole process tu is what we call as information processing. Okay, kalau mana dia ada manual, and usually memang ada manual, tapi mana budak yang kadang bila dia dah biasa dia tak payah guna manual, so dia boleh pasang, so memang dia pasang sekejap. So usually my second one ni less than an hour untuk nak siapkan Gundam tu, Gundam, right? So benda ni dia akan enhancekan lagi dia punya cognitive functioning, also dia punya information processing, alright? So other changes involve memory. Kita tahu lah memory, you all pun dah banyak kali, berapa semester dah belajar tentang memory, and bagaimana memory ni improve sebenarnya. Okay, you can ingat when the child is living in a good conducive environment with a good communication punya element, then akan baiklah, akan terbentuklah a good foundation of all this information processing, alright? And thinking, the way he thinks, the way he reply back, kan, bagaimana dia nak expresskan dia punya inquiries, kan, and of course the metacognition. So all these aspect dia memang adalah antara komponen penting, it's part of the important component, okay, in information processing. So this is again, it's about nature. You are born again with the intelligence, but intelligence alone is not enough if you don't have a strong, macam kata tadilah, support environment, good environment dan sebagainya. So it's about nature and nurture. How do we nurture the intelligence or bakat given lah. Okay, so tadi about memory, thinking and metacognition, right? So kita go deeper sikit on what is actually metacognition. Kalau tengok dekat gambar tu kan, you guys, so banyak persoalan actually. Bingung budak kan, even starting from 4 years old. Mama, kenapa langit ni biru? Mama, kenapa pokok ni hijau? Kenapa kita nak, so kenapa sampai boleh tak diam sekejap? Mama penat sangat. So but again, these are what makes a good metacognition. Okay, bila bila parents itu responded in a good way, and in fact kalau tak boleh nak jawab pun, they reply back in a good way yang boleh diterima. So you tengok all these thing yang berada di dalam kepala ini kanak-kanak ni, mungkin macam kita kan dalam satu masa kita banyak benda kita fikir. Sama juga macam anak-anak, nampak je dia tak fikir, tapi sebenarnya kalau you explore apa dia punya yang berada di dalam dia punya frontal lobes, all the lobes tu, so this is what we call as metacognition. So basically kalau you nak faham what is metacognition ni, okay, alright, so simple thing, orang kata kalau kita buat thesis ni is about research question kan, RQ, betul tak? So actually it's the it's test, it's questioning back. Okay, kalau anak-anak ni kan, the ability to think about one's thought, okay, or make them aware of what is going on, okay. And one example is when we encourage the kids to be able to make the transition. Kalau budak-budak ni bila kita minta je, kita ni tak boleh lah mama, tak boleh kan. So macam mana daripada kita tak boleh tu, tak boleh jadi tak boleh. Kadang ada budak habit dia, belum habis soalan lagi, belum lah habis lagi arang, entah tak tahu, tak boleh. Kan? Itu memang nature budak-budak. Tapi macam mana kita nak nurturekan dia? Kita tak boleh biar dia macam tu, dia tak boleh, dia tak buat. So bila tak buat, it affects on dia punya metacognition. So we guide, kita latih dia. So from I can't to be more proactive, to guide them to be more proactive, and instead kita biarkan je, okay tak boleh, tak apalah. But ask them, kan? And guide them. So how can I? Always cubalah praktiskan ni macam mana. Okay, boleh tak dapat? Okay, mama tahu boleh, mama tahu tak boleh. Susah tapi ada boleh. Kita boleh buat. Cuba macam ni. So kita sort of scaffolding jugalah. So to do that, they need to think about why they are stuck. Okay? Why they are stuck and what makes them so frustrated. Kalau mungkin first attempt dia tidak berjaya. So bila dia tak berjaya tu, dia generalize kepada semua benda yang lain lepas tu. Tak boleh, susah, dia dah cuba dan sebagainya. Tapi sebenarnya belum cukup lagi kan. And also what they would need to get unstuck. So this is when our part, okay, especially the parents, is very, very important. Kan? So scaffolding is not only when it comes to physical play ke, dia tak boleh apa, tapi also dia punya thinking. Kalau kita tak encourage dia punya thinking daripada early years, that is when might end up with all this distortion, all these negative automatic thoughts bila besar. Okay, nampak dia ada linkage dia kan. So they need to think about their own thinking as well. They need to have more power kan. Jangan semuanya spoon feed, semuanya tak apa, let me think for you, blah blah blah, and end up let me think for you, jadilah that overprotective mom and dad. Biar dia orang fikir and biar they take the consequences of what they let them know about the cause and effect, and also it's good to let our kids to feel that failure part is actually because dia tahu, and then that's why kita guide dia, right? Okay, so again, what is metacognition? You boleh tengoklah kat situ all these sensories kan. I feel so frustrated because mama saya tak boleh buat. Saya rasa kecewa. Kan tu mungkin budak besar sikit lah, 7 tahun tak cakap lah. Tapi sedih lah, tak boleh kan. Kakak dah cuba tapi tak boleh kan. Sebab kakak nampak benda ni macam tak boleh, dah cuba. Kan, so dia tengok apa yang dia cuba buat, even simple task as homework pun tak boleh. So peranan kita lah kan, at least to boost, of course to boost dia punya motivation and actually to help on dia punya metacognition punya ability. Alright, so I am wondering and I'm noticing, so this is when kita kena ask the questions back. So how do you feel? Okay, kat mana yang tak boleh tadi? Show kat mama. So bila kita tengok orang-orang dewasa tengok, kita nampak dia ada way around, right? Because we have that concrete thinking and abstract reasoning dan sebagainya. So kita guide. Bila kita guide sekali, kita expose sekali, benda tu yang sebenarnya melekat dekat dia. Okay, Lian ni ada soalan Hana pun ada soalan.
Usual kalau kelas doktor mesti ada banyak soalan.
Kejap. Okay, boleh.
Kalau kelas doktor mesti banyak soalan sebab relatable sangat. Okay, kuat soalan. Okay, kalau dia contoh buat carry out a task tapi macam tak betul atau tak complete. Contoh macam a simple task would be pakai kasut, for example, pakai kasut sendiri. Lepas tu cara dia pakai mungkin ikatan dia tak betul ke apa ke, and maksudnya kita dah bagi dia time, kita dah bagi dia peluang untuk cuba sendiri, tapi benda tu tak sesempurna yang kita buat. Should we let him be macam okay, right, that's good enough, it's good that you've or should we macam force sampai boleh, ataupun kita tak apalah Umi buatkan macam tu. What would be the best approach to that?
Umurnya berapa? Kena tengok umur.
Ni lah besar around masa dia tengah baru nak independent, baru umur 5 tahun, 4-5 tahun macam tu, macam baru nak do things on his own.
Okay.
Sebab saya selalu pakai approach macam okay, tak apa, it's okay, if it's not perfect, it's fine. I will just keluar je kasut tu, ikat tak apa tu pun tak apa, jalan je. As long as dia rasa confident macam okay, I dah buat, I confident benda ni I yang buat. Macam tu.
Alright. Okay, first thing first, kita kena tengok age dia appropriate tak dengan development dia. Mungkin kalau you start awal, mungkin belum masanya lagi dia acquire the fine and gross motor skills tu. Kan, meaning and to tie up shoelaces tu is not easy Budak yang mungkin 5-6 tahun pun belum lagi acquire. Tapi we as a parents kalau boleh jangan sampai kill dia punya rasa macam dia nak cuba-cuba tapi you expect the perfect one lah. Cukup setakat diikat tu. Apa yang you buat tu bagus. Cumanya one way is that you ada tak buat macam tutorial depan dia macam mana nak ikat kan? So this is how you hold it, and then waktu dia betulkan tu, okay, like this, ambil tangan dia, buat macam mama buat. One to one yang it's a very technical punya tutorial.
Okay, so far so far tak adalah ikat tanda belum lagi lah, it's just strapping on. Kan setengah macam strap on ke belakang instead of strap on kat depan. So kalau yang strap on kat belakang tu kadang-kadang dia buat macam tak cukup ketat, dia macam longgar sikit ke apa. To me it's okay dah good, because I don't want to macam every time you nak pakai kasut I will bend down and then help you fix it all the time.
Okay, kalau I kan, okay, mungkin kita nampak tak kemas. Okay, so kita bagi dia rasa effect. Okay, you ikat macam ni kan Musa, and cuba Musa jalan, cuba abang jalan. Rasa kasut tu nak terbuka. Dia kata, lah mama, okay, cuba mama ikat pula. So macam mana? Yang mana best? So dia rasa selesa, mungkin mama diikat. So dia tahu nak tarik tang mana. Faham tak?
Faham.
And kita ajar. That is why sebenarnya children kena tahu they need to learn the cause and effect, the consequences. So macam dia kata biar kadang let them rasa benda-benda macam tu, especially macam kalau jatuh, kalau something apa kan, same apply to apa yang Iliani tanya lah. So kita tahu which one yang suka dalam hidup. Okay, of course kita nak yang best, then you kena tarik lah sikit, and then mama pun nampak handsome lagi, kemas, so puji macam tu. So build dia punya confidence. Okay, alright.
Jelas, thank you doktor.
Welcome. Okay. Sharifah Hana, lama dah angkat. Turun bawah tu. Tengok sangat.
Alright. Okay. Yeah, about the metacognition just now with the whole like scaffolding thing tu kan.
Okay.
What about parents yang macam the way they scaffold or something like that through saying like, oh, use your common sense macam tu. Macam tu macam mana? So ada parents yang macam just like, or try to use your common sense, think, use your brain, use your head macam tu.
Not scaffolding at first place kan. Look back at the definition kan Hana kan. Scaffolding is at the end of the day you make other people to have that positivity kan. Kalau bila Hana punya script tadi macam okay, like macam tak boleh fikir ke contohnya kan.
Macam tu. But like some parents find that as more like maybe to build independence kot, to be able to think yourself. Maybe some parents like perceive it that way.
Betul lah. But for me that one is not scaffolding. So it's about I tak tahulah term apa yang exact nak define this thing. Mesti ada term dia. But again, I think yes, dia nak anak dia independent in that way lah. It's about again falls back kepada macam dia punya reflected to dia punya parenting style kan. Tapi ada budak bila dia okay, dia kadang take that stress, okay, to transform kepada eustress, a good stress. At the end of the day dia achieve. Motivation is a push factor. Tapi kalau budak yang macam kan, so stress lah macam tu.
So it's not necessarily a wrong approach lah. It depends on the child, kan doktor?
Yes, there are
Okay.
child yang can take it, mana yang resilient. Kadang kanak-kanak ni dia punya maturity level dia different. Ada yang awal, ada yang memang lambat yang kita kena uruskan dia, yang mudah besar tu pun still lagi dependent kepada parents for example, kepada maid for example kan, pembantu yang ada. So ada juga yang despite any background, so mungkin anak yang memang dia nampak mak ayah dia struggle, so dia punya common sense ataupun dia punya the way the reasoning towards what happened in dia punya kehidupan tu berbeza.
I see.
Alright.
Okay, thank you doktor.
Welcome. Okay, boleh kita teruskan? Kan tak tidur kita kan? Okay. Liani nak tanya ke turun tangan Liani? I nampak lenguh nanti. Okay, so actually metacognition is a big word for something. Okay, most of us do every day without even noticing it. Okay, even we, memang this one is along the way. Okay, okay lah, nanti lepas ni you tengok, lah this is metacognition. This is what we call as executive functioning. Kan, because dia berkait. And of course it's reflect on our own thoughts, is how we gain insight into our feelings, needs and behaviours. Kan, macam sekarang ni esok weekend, macam tak boleh case dah 8,000. I mean like I need to go ni, but at the same time I'm afraid. So that is part of the process. Okay, it's how we compute and it's how we process all the information and how we learn, manage and adapt to new experiences. Okay, dalam keadaan you dah berapa semester dah ni? Masuk semester ketiga online learning, so you dah adapt. You dah tahu awal-awal dulu macam mana. I cannot brain lah belajar macam ni kan. Dengan ada lecturer pun ajar macam tak nak ajar je. Lepas tu lecturer pun tak gerti nak pakai all this technology kan. I cannot brain. Tapi as we go along, kita boleh accept, we can adapt. Example and the lectures of course from time to time, mana not that digital literacy punya orang, dia belajar somehow and then they can improve from time to time. So kita masing-masing adapt. So we have our own thoughts kan. And of course, our emotional setbacks is different. Our coping style is different. And of course, our defense mechanism pun berbeza. Itu semua yang menentukan our metacognition. Okay, so it's the running conversation, what we have in our heads. So mentally sounding ourselves out and making plans. So we need to train our kids to use this proactively, okay, to overcome obstacles and to make it into a powerful tool. That's why kena guide anak-anak. Kalau kita enroll dengan any classes like swimming class, piano, you main any instrument, you main any art ke apa, make sure that they go through it. Jangan separuh jalan dia kata dia boring, dia tak suka, dia tak ni kan. Kalau boleh guide, unless kita tahu that memang dia cannot take it lah. But maksud I jangan sekali dua pergi dah dia boring kan. So sebenarnya itu ada faktor lain lah. And more studies are suggesting that kids who are taught to use metacognitive strategies early on are more resilient and more successful both in out of school, right? Okay, so this is it, the metacognition cycle. Ni tengok kalau mungkin kita bagi task kepada budak-budak sekolah kan, sekolah rendah kan, and when they perform it, evaluate the strength and weakness, and in fact di sekolah, setting sekolah, cikgu-cikgu they whatever approach that they apply ni ada this metacognition punya element, alright. So not only students, but it is also a factor of a driven factor for all of us lah. Kalau I dulu, even sekarang ni pun dalam proses pengalaman I untuk nak habiskan belajar and everything kan. So at that time my metacognition it's I pun tak tahu kat mana dapat all this ability all this autonomy, resilience So when students improve their metacognitive skills, they are more likely to embrace a growth mindset. And this is This has got to do with mindfulness, all this element lah, all this good positive. When you're talking about positive psychology, benda ni yang part of the process. So the child need to have a very good ataupun a matured metacognition. Kalau mungkin kita bagi dia simple task, how do they see the issues and how do they solve, and then how do they in terms of problem solving, decision making tu kadang kita suka tengok kan. Kadang benda ni mungkin tak ada, kita bagi situation. So dia akan throw out dia punya idea, apa yang dia rasa, apa yang dia fikirkan, and then kita tengok macam mana dia cuba nak menyelesaikan. So that task can be done from daily conversation juga, tak ada masalah. Kan? Kalau nak real mungkin kita bagi physical task kan, yang buat benda tu, cuba benda ni, troubleshoot something, but during maybe dalam kereta pun cuba bagi dia senario, benda tu bagus. Okay, it's a good practice. And then kita betulkanlah, okay kalau macam ni cuba nampak this way, the other way round. So itu yang we all selalu ajarlah anak-anak kan, on to think and to think the other way round. Like kan adapt. Baru nampak lah. Betul lah.
Critical thinking ya doktor.
Part of critical thinking lah. Kita ajar tak ada salahnya, sebab kadang dia only nampak one view. Even orang tua pun kita kena ajar macam tu kan. So in different perspective, it's good. Okay, next one is memory. Okay, memory pun I tahu you all ingat lagi kan. Ini saya tak payah banyak lah. Long term memory yang mungkin kita ingat, dia hope relatively permanent and unlimited type of memory. So it increases with age during middle and late childhood. And working memory is now lah. Sekarang ni you ingat, tapi mungkin minggu depan bila nak quiz dah tak ingat dah doktor apa tu metacognition, because working memory is a limited capacity store for retaining information for a brief period. Okay, so while performing mental operations on that information, unless if waktu I bercerita ni on metacognition and at the same time your brain process, oh yelah I ingat dulu waktu macam mana you acquire new skills ni. And then so that falls under long-term memory, kan? So maknanya dia dah long-term memory. But bila ditanya balik, that is working memory lah. Kita absorb semua information yang kita dapat waktu tu, but not permanently lah. It's just temporary. So macam ni kan, macam ni lah kes 8,000. Contoh kan 8290. Okay, minggu depan you ingat lagi. But mungkin you ingat all this PUI, all this death, all this ni. That is info that we get on that day. Current one kan. But bila ditanya ataupun bila nak tengok balik ni, bila dia highest case bila ni? You tend to forget. So that is apa yang dimaksudkan dengan working memory lah. So all the information is manipulated and assembled when making decisions, solving problems, and comprehending written or spoken language, right? And knowledge and expertise play a role in enhancing a good memory pada individu. So ingat ilmu yang ada and also the expertise and also the experience. So experts have extensive knowledge in a particular content area, right? So older children usually have more expertise than younger children and affects their ability to remember, to reason and to solve problems. So strategies or control processes, so deliberately mental activities to improve the processing of information. Dia berbalik yang tadi lah, information processing kan, so we need strategies. Okay, dalam metacognition, benda ni semua sekali sebenarnya, tapi dia when they explain, any falls under memory, any falls under information processing, and so actually it is one one task that has all, right? So two important strategies is creating mental images and elaborating on information. Okay, macam contoh yang bagi tadi, dalam kereta while waiting for any traffic ke ataupun apa kan, so orang Mak Saleh kata to kill time lah, to kill the time kan. Sambil you tunggu nak drive to McDonald for example, queue panjang kan kat Bangi ni, ya Allah, macam tak surut-surut queue dia kan. Takkan nak diam, takkan nak tengok phone, yang masing-masing tengok phone. So you communicate kan, whatever things yang ada di sekitaran. Kalau budak kecil tengok, okay, tengok mungkin kira apa ni, apa-apalah yang you nampak kan. So create that mental images and ask them to elaborate, to share with other family members. Tapi tak boleh keluar ramai-ramai kan. Tapi maknanya create that situation. Yeah, and elaboration engaging in more extensive processing of information and it benefits the memory punya quality. Okay, so what is mental image? Sorry kejap minum. Dengar tak anak saya bercakap kat luar? Okay, so kalau tengok gambar dekat situ kan, kita tengok. So daripada gambar ni pun you dah boleh, what is that? So macam sensorimotor, all this that language and development daripada skema kan, dia ada this whatever asimilasi dan sebagainya. So dia bermula daripada asas itulah, and then bila dia naik, bila individu tu kanak-kanak tu meningkat usianya, makin lagi comprehensive dia punya ability. So we need to create this mental image, right? Mental dekat sini bukan mental lah dia ni, bukan penyakit mental ke, bukan mental illness ke, bukan apa jangan salah. Kan nampak je Dr. Hilwa terus ingat mental illness. No, it's mental image. Alright, so mental image or mental representation is defined as what an individual can feel. Okay, you tutup mata, you tiba-tiba you bau apa? Bau buah durian. Durian. Mana yang tak suka tu mesti tak boleh bayangkan. Tak nak bayangkan kan. Mana yang suka tu dah bayangkan, dah boleh tahu, boleh macam mana kan. So you can feel. You can see or you can taste in one's own mind. So you have that imagination. And however, the stimulus which creates the image is not actually seen, heard, felt, tasted or smelled. Okay. So this is different berbanding dengan those yang dalam sensory motor. Mungkin dia tak boleh. They don't have the ability yet to create these mental images, right? So itulah antara yang terawal yang discover this one is Feynman 1959, and then being dikaji secara meluas lah. Banyak lah kalau you tengok research tu banyak on you just Google tengok the journals, banyak research experiment that they did. Alright. So most cognitive processes, for example, perception, memory, okay, perception, memory, and imagery involve mental representations or mental images. For example, you okay, kita bercakap tentang topik yang hot sekarang ni kan, yang 2 hari lepas hari apa? Hari Wesak ke? Yang hari Wesak ke yang rasa kebanyakan phone netizen semua hampir nak pecah kan, hampir berapa ribu kali mengaku robot. Saya gelak je kan, senyum je tengok, asyik baiklah, dah lepas, dah tak payah nak berebut-rebut, because I got vaccinated early of the month baru ni. Bila kita tengok orang share kan, so bayangkan during when we talk about those yang anti-vaccine for example, so maybe we have our own perception. Okay, we have our own imagination. What would they be? I mean, these people kan, why on earth they are against this? So that is what we call as we are creating this kan, mental images. Maknanya waktu kita tu ni pun mungkin konteks berbeza, lagi advance, tetapi budak apa yang revolve around dia is play, kawan, all this. Maybe bila kanak-kanak yang akhir tu all this entertainment kan. All this maybe school issues dan sebagainya, family, relationship. Okay, so kita pun sama, waktu kita dewasa macam ni pun we still have this cognitive processes lah, right? So in processes of perception, each stimulus is interpreted and integrated into a mental image. Memory and imagery allow for the generation and manipulation of images of the objects or scenes without sensory stimuli. So kalau dekat sini it involves picture, kalau tak ada picture, sounds, dia dengar, betul lah, dengar macam bunyi kucing tapi tak nampak kucing. Mama dengar tak? Okay kan, so agak-agak kucing tu besar ke tak? So kita improve, kita encourage dia to produce more vocabs, kan semua berkait dengan language, emotions kan. Alright, and then taste, smell. So words from the text, soccer game, sunny, ball, sebagainya lah yang berkait dengan interest anak itu. Okay, so next one in memory, it has this fuzzy trace theory. Okay, which means that the memory best understood by considering 2 types of memory. So especially when we hear something, okay, we have got the precise details and then also the central idea of information. Kalau mungkin dia bila balik kan dia cerita, mama tadi kan dekat sekolah cikgu cakap ada budak ni dia ni. So bila balik tu dia boleh satu-satu sebut kan. And then dia boleh detail out very precisely each and every details of apa yang cikgu cakap, dan bila kebetulan cikgu pun akan message benda yang sama. Mungkin pasal contoh kalau kalau ada ibu bapa anak-anak yang kematian ibu atau ayah kan, sebab apa, budak kelas mana dan sebagainya, memang parents bila dapat tu betul. So maknanya that is falls under verbatim memory trace lah, dia dengar saja So umum budak macam ni lah. And then the central idea of information case topiknya, the main central idea is budak ni ada pelajar yang kematian ayahnya dan cikgu guru meminta sumbangan. So esok kena bawa duit. Kan kadang kita bila budak cakap, mama ada sumbangan, ada budak yang tak boleh cerita. So kita macam sure tak sure. Tapi kalau budak yang memang anak yang boleh bercerita, detail penceritaannya. So okay, so memang so kita yakin lah memang nak bawa duit untuk bagi sumbangan. Right? Kadang kita pun bila anak yang tak boleh, ada anak kadang dia verbally dia tak berapa sangat. Right? So dia cerita sikit-sikit je, kadang maksudnya tak sampai. Kan? And tak sampai because of mungkin dia punya the memory capacity.
Macam Musa dia cerita tapi cerita daripada POV the next person. Faham tak? Macam kalau dia buat dekat orang, dia cerita macam apa yang orang tu experience, dia yang experience. Faham tak? Kalau cerita sana, dia pergi sekolah, dia tolak budak, tapi dia balik dia cerita kat I, dia kata budak dia kena tolak. Dia kata a friend push me. I dah tahu dulu dah cerita tu daripada teacher. So I just nak tengok whether he wants to tell me ke tak kan. Tapi nanti malam sikit baru cerita tu berubah, baru tukar POV, baru macam I push somebody.
That is actually it is not relatively associated with memory, but it's more on dia punya defense mechanism. That's why you kena betulkan awal. Defense mechanism ni nak selamatkan diri.
Oh, okay. Is it understanding? Dia macam bukan, maksudnya macam dia punya perspektif. Bukan Sebab at the end of the day, he will still tell me. And dia tak pernah, macam I tak pernah marah dia pun macam, you tak boleh marah dia.
Tapi
kalau selamatkan diri ke apa.
Tapi kenapa bila malam lah tu baru dia boleh bercerita?
Tiba-tiba macam I cakap kat dia, because malam biasanya I akan cakap, okay, tomorrow when you go to school, you make sure you be nice to your friends, ni semua. Lepas tu dia akan macam, oh yeah, today I pushed my friend because he took my macam tu. Dia baru dia macam tersedar yang aku cerita tadi salah.
Cuba approach confrontation. Okay, bila dia bercerita macam tu, you mungkin cakap, okay, actually you bagi tahu lah, you confront dengan dia, calmly bagi tahu yang you dah tahu benda ni awal, I minta tanya which one is ni. So tengok macam mana. It's a good exercise. I buat macam tu. Sebab kita tak confrontation maknanya, tapi in a good way lah, in a humble way. Tak salah, tak marah dia, jangan marah dia. Tapi kita nak tengok sebab benda ni nanti akan, itulah belief dia punya, dah build dia punya defense mechanism tau. Kan? You tahu kan? Yang ada berapa 10 types of defense mechanism, actually it starts from young jugalah. So tanya dia, okay, so mama dapat macam ni kan, okay, cikgu dah ni. So you masa tu you observe dia punya expression, dia punya macam mana kan, but confront dia yang it's okay kan, just bagi tahu tentang the truth, dan jangan takut semua kan, and people make
budak ni tak takut doktor, dia tak heran, dia bagi tahu dia macam yes I hit my friend. Dia tak ada rasa, dia tak ada rasa macam tadi Umi, tak ada. Dia akan just macam I hit him because he pushed me ataupun he took my because I wanted to play this thing. Dia macam he's very blunt, this boy, tapi dia punya cerita dia tu, itulah kadang-kadang macam I have to really sit down with him and macam okay, what are you trying to tell me? Are you trying to tell me that you buat kat orang or orang buat dekat you? Sebab benda tu akan berubah-ubah.
Tak tahulah, maybe 5 kan? 5.
He's 5 turning 5 this year. Belum 5 lagi, turning 5 this year. So macam I think he's a bit too young juga kot to have a clear view.
Kalau anak I akan dapat dulu daripada cikgu, dia buat ni. So bila balik, apa ni, kadang dia tak cerita, kadang I tanya, kadang bila dia cerita macam ni, tapi tak selalu I akan confront. I jenis confront, even dengan my mate pun, okay, this is what I got, is it true? So cuba tengok tak, waktu tu kita nak tengok expression dia macam mana. Mungkin dia kata blunt tu sebab benda tu dah pass like 12 hours, 8 hours dah lain. Ni dia balik there and then tu waktu ni, tapi you kena make sure you dah ready dengan yang okay, open mind, apa saja explanation dia you terima, tapi you confront, benda tu bagus. Sebab nanti dia develop personality budak tu actually, tahu. Cuba. Kan even anak I yang 4 tahun pun, yang bongsu ke yang number 5 ID tu pun memang kadang-kadang biasalah yang ni, kadang teacher cakap ni, yang ni cakap dia, yang ni cakap dia kan. So kita akan confront lah, okay kenapa kan, dia ni okay, apa yang dia buat, tetapi abang pun kena careful lah macam tu.
Ya, betul lah. Budak-budak kan dia orang punya ni kadang-kadang cerita dia lain daripada apa yang kita dengar.
Betul. Tapi it's good daripada early years ni kita confront juga biar dia tahu. Jangan buat lambat, nanti kita yang akan tanggung akibat dia lah. Sebab dia dah mungkin selama ni dia dah selamat, kita tak tahu intention anak sebenarnya macam mana. Kan? So it's good daripada awal lah kita start to have. Tapi janganlah macam sampai paranoid bila dia kata dia ni, betul ke? Betul kan? Janganlah macam tu kan. Maknanya kita, anak tu dia tahulah the consequences kan dia buat macam tu. Right?
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, next is autobiographical memory lah. Macam ni kan, anak tu ingat bila first birthday yang mak dia buat birthday celebration kan. Contoh mungkin kawan-kawan lain dah biasa buat daripada 1 tahun, 2 tahun, 3 tahun. Dia tiap-tiap tahun celebrate birthday. Tapi dia ni mak ayah tak pernah ada budaya nak celebrate birthday. Tiba-tiba umur 9 tahun, tiba-tiba ada birthday celebration, panggil kawan-kawan dia sebagainya. So mungkin benda tu yang memang jadi memory terindah lah. So it is called as autobiographical memory. Kalau dalam konteks kita yang dewasa ni, macam you ingat lagi the moment you habis SPM, kalau yang dah tua sikit, ingat lagi momen-momen you di ijab kabulkan, ingat any significant events kan, dates, pengalaman, macam mana ada proses melahirkan bersalin tu, masih ingat lagi si anak ni macam mana sakitnya, pukul berapa you sakit, pukul berapa contraction, berapa ni bla bla bla. So that is part of autobiographical memory. Okay, so the culture influences children's autobiographical memories, and it's a memory of our life story, and it also refers to memory for an individual's life events and other knowledge about that specific individual's life. Right? Okay, so how to improve children's memory? Tengok banyak, sebab tu kata budak ni banyak benda kan. Nampak je dia naik innocent macam tu, sebenarnya banyak kan, kata budak ni memang banyak fikir. So itulah gambarannya lebih kurang. Right? So strategies adults can adopt when guiding children to remember information, assist them to organize information. Kan? Bantu mereka, okay, to how to organize information, and then elaborate the information and develop images of the information. Okay. So mungkin bila dia share apa yang berlaku dekat sekolah macam ni cerita, kadang ada budak macam ni juga, dia cerita salah kawan dia je, tapi dia tak cerita salah dia sebenarnya. Benda ni pun berlaku kat anak-anak saya juga. So kita nampak macam lain macam je kan, sebenarnya in a way dia nak cerita, benda tu pun dia buat juga. Kan, so kita betulkan, and then kita macam I said lah, kita confront, kita make them organize whatever. So kalau boleh daripada awal, kita cuba cerita awal, kita structured kan, okay, macam mana benda tu boleh jadi. Kalau kata kawan ni tolak kawan ni, so macam anak kita ni angel, contoh ni I cakap anak I, tapi sebenarnya rupanya bila dapat cikgu, sebenarnya dia pun part of the character, tapi dia tak cerita. So bila dia cerita, tiba-tiba ada pula yang dia memang patut dia tertolak, ada, so dia cerita balik, and then benda macam tu lah. That was one example lah, banyak lagi lah example yang berkaitan dengan educational, dengan experience yang dia alami, the new info knowledge kan. Okay, encourage them to understand the material rather than rudely memorizing it. Alright, so mungkin buku cerita, bila kita baca buku cerita dengan anak, rather than dia baca, okay, with a good pronunciation, but on the other side dia tak boleh nak comprehend ataupun tak boleh juga. So let them read, we read together dengan anak, and then we ask them to cerita balik mengikut apa yang dia faham. That is a good strategy lah, good activity. So kita akan tengok cerita sama tapi dalam konteks dia ni, so maknanya dia faham, right? And repeat with variation on the instructional information and link early and often, right? So keep on repeating and tengoklah macam house task yang dia buat ke apa. Always to improve memory ni, even kita pun we need to repeat and repeat, right? Like for example, bila kita baca something, ada some people they cannot memorize if dia tak vocally verbally dia tak baca kuat. Ya, ada orang baca perlahan, baca tak bunyi, dia boleh dapat. So repeat, ikut learning style masing-masing lah. And embed memory relevant language when instructing children. So it is important to underscore how children actively construct their memory. Okay, thinking. Okay, so this is executive functioning. Executive function is one of the core component of cognitive. Okay, so it encompasses a number of high-level cognitive processes, so which include self-control ataupun self-inhibition, working memory and efficient processing, and also flexibility in thinking. So activities that increase children's executive function include computerized training that uses games to improve working memory, okay, aerobic exercise, scaffolding of self-regulation and mindfulness, and some types of skill curriculum. So basically executive functioning ni ada semua ni yang you baca dalam gambar ni. It's how the children organize the information, okay, organizations, the ability to develop and maintain a system that keeps materials and plans orderly. Okay, dalam menjadi seorang pelajar, murid sekolah kan, so you need to have a structured and organized punya schedule. How you organize yourself. So from morning sampai ke tidur. So you have the ability to plan kan, and then of course apa ni, dia berkait dengan dia punya time management. Maknanya sebagai seorang murid, bayangkan pagi dia pergi sekolah, tengah hari dia balik uruskan diri, makan sebagainya, petang dia pergi sekolah agama, and then rehat balik sekejap, ada pula tuition. In between, oh ni ada kerja rumah ni, oh ni ada ni, oh cikgu ni kata nanti suruh mak ayah beli benda ni untuk nak bawa esok. So benda tu melibatkan banyak aspek dalam pemikiran, okay? To uruskan diri sendiri, to think of homework, benda tu involve apa ni, problem solving, betul. At the same time, okay, macam ni nak cakap macam ni. So benda tu melibatkan the whole aspect lah, right, dalam the cognitive processes. So kalau murid, okay, kanak-kanak yang berumur ni, they can manage their well accordingly, uruskan diri sendiri dengan baik, okay, tahu merumuskan masa, okay, tahu untuk menyiapkan kerja, especially yang melibatkan kerja kumpulan, tahu respons tanggungjawab dia. So indicates that dia punya executive functioning tu memang baik. Alright, okay, and then they have the flexibility to adapt to new situations and deal with change. Maknanya dia cepat adapt, and also perseverance lah, the ability to stick with the task and not give up even when it becomes challenging. Okay, another one is critical thinking. So think out of the box lah, pendek kata kan. Thinking reflectively and productively and evaluating evidence. Okay, so deep understanding develops when students are stimulated to rethink previously held ideas. So successful grades are not an indicator of a critical thinker. Okay, so bear in mind, okay, kadang those people with good grades tu, they are more on maybe memorizing, kan? Not mungkin ada yang dia berbeza dengan mungkin kalau kata when you are given a topic to write an essay, So mana yang budak menghafal dari teori dia hafal, mungkin dia ada difficulties in elaborating the ataupun in engaging the info that dia dapat from persekitaran. Okay. And of course, mindfulness, being alert, mentally present, and cognitively flexible. And apart from critical thinking, also yang berkembang pesat pada umur anak-anak ini adalah creative thinking. So thinking in novel and unusual ways are produce unique solutions, kan? So they are very curious. So outcome product will be various. Kadang kita tak terfikir pun Satu kalau cuba bagi budak something and they can turn out into a good product lah. Okay, so intelligence and creativity are not the same. Convergent thinking, intelligence reflected on conventional tests, so produce one correct answer. Meanwhile, those divergent thinking producing many answers for the same questions, and they characterizes creativity. Okay, so mana yang convergent tu yang memang mungkin hafal kan? So, okay, scientific thinking, generating hypotheses, performing experiments, and reaching conclusions about data. Actually, the scientific thinking ni, when it comes to school curriculum ni, science they have started since tahun 1. Kan ada 12 kemahiran saintifik yang dia expand from one year to another year. So at the end of the day, by year 5, year 6 tu, dia orang dah boleh buat hypothesis dan dia orang dah boleh buat inference dan sebagainya kan. So kita tengok syllabus pun dah gerun. Kadang kita pun susah nak jawab. But they have embed all the scientific thinking starting from 7 years old. Okay, standard 1. So often reasoning to identify causal relations. Children's reasoning differs from scientific reasoning and separate evidence and theory. Tengok ni. Okay. Okay, assessment. Okay, what are the assessment tools involved in assessing children's intelligence? So ada a few whereby in clinical setting tu we usually adapt the WISC, Wechsler Intelligence Scale for children. Kalau adult punya intelligence scale, it's the WISC, WISC adult. So intelligence involve problem solving skills and the ability to learn from and adapt to everyday experiences, right? So it's how fast that we can adapt and how flexible are we in facing any issues or conflicts in everyday life. So individual differences is stable and consistent ways people differ from each other. So kita berbeza setiap satu kita adalah berbeza. And one of the earliest intelligence assessment, okay, derived from Alfred Binet in 1905, whereby he introduced an intelligence scale to identify children who were unable to learn in school. So according to Binet, the mental age is a measure of an individual's level of mental development compared with that of others. So IQ, okay, is a person's mental age divided by his or her chronological age, then multiplied by 100. Okay? So it was revised many times as the Stanford-Binet test. So normal distribution is a symmetrical distribution which most scores falling in the middle of the possible range. So bila kita buat IQ test, so we need to have the actual age, which is the chronological age. Kalau dalam WISC, ni the Wechsler scales. Okay, Wechsler scales ni saya cakap tadi ada kalau adult nama dia WAIS, W-A-I-S. Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale. Okay, kalau children WISC, W-I-S-C. Okay, so Wechsler Intelligence Scale for children. C to children. So another set of tests was developed by David Wechsler, psychologist. So ada few version, right? So Wechsler Preschool and Primary Scale of Intelligence, 4th edition, is used to test children from 2 years, 6 months. Kalau anda tengok tu 2 years and 6 months, that is chronological age. Okay. Dia ada formula dia nak kira. Okay, macam hari ni berapa hari bulan? 28 Mei 2021. Dan anda lahir pada bila? Macam saya lahir 29 Januari 1982. Okay, so macam mana nak kira chronological age saya? Saya punya CA. Ada di formula. So maknanya I can be, yes, I am 39 years old, but how many month and days? So dalam report, clinical report, years, months and age and days, sorry. Right? So tengok macam mana dia boleh very specific 2 years and 6 months. So actually you can know your child punya IQ test as early as 2 years and 6 months. So kalau kita tengok dekat Wechsler preschool and primary scale ni, maybe the domains, bukan domains, the activity or the task in each domains tu dia banyak on visual. Okay, kalau Wechsler ni from 6 to 16 years, meaning children and adolescent. So mungkin like visual memory, like domains yang dia ukur itu aktivitinya, ada yang visual, ada yang ada yang verbal, meaning dia kena construct ayat. Okay. So ada yang menggunakan DigiSpan to test memory. Dia ada beberapa domain, right? So kalau nak belajar IQ test ni pun it's very tedious, it's very technical, and that's why kalau you request to have an IQ test for your child to see at what age dia sebenarnya dia perform, kan? Whereby dia punya chronological age dia punya actual age dia 11 tahun, tapi sebenarnya bila buat IQ test dia actually perform at the age of 7 years, 5 months and 12 days, for example. Kan, after scoring all those domains dalam WISC itu. So it now provides both an overall IQ score and 5 composite scores. Okay, the domains are verbal comprehension, working memory, processing speed, fluid reasoning and visual spatial. And in the clinical setting, to administer IQ test, to request for report ni, it costs you kalau dulu hundreds of ringgit, 500. It depends, but if you go to private practice, it can be thousands. Sebab nak administer tu pun, they require a lot of time and patience jugalah kepada, of course, anak itu, the patient, the subject and the tester lah. Tapi usually when we receive referral, usually pihak sekolah lah yang refer the children kepada therapist, kepada klinik yang boleh buat ni hanya clinical psychologist, right? So usually is to rule out learning difficulties, to rule out dyslexia, to rule out autism. Just kita nak tengok. And in fact for autism they use a special assessment tools which is a non-verbal IQ test, right? Untuk nak measure, sebab budak-budak autism ni mereka memang tidak boleh nak converse verbally, right? So IQ test is different dengan anak-anak yang normal. Okay, intelligence. Okay, types of intelligence, the famous one Sternberg lah. Sternberg's triakic theory of intelligence, malam ni susah pula sebut, says that intelligence comes in 3 forms: analytic, creative and practical. Okay, so students with high analytical intelligence are favoured in conventional schooling. Yalah kan, semua cikgu suka lah, betul tak? Jawab je boleh ni, boleh berbahas, boleh nak reply back, boleh nak respon cepat kan. And then creatively intelligent students may not confirm, and children who are in high practical intelligence often do not relate well to the demands of school. So in Sternberg's view, wisdom requires a mix of academic intelligence and practical knowledge. So this is the reality of securing a job right now. It's not only academic intelligence, but it's the whole process of the intelligence, right? So it needs to be balanced between self-interest and the interest of others, and context produces a common good. Okay, inilah kata kalau ikut Sternberg ni ada analytical, when the ability to analyze, to compare, to evaluate, even macam sekarang ni pun learning outcome ya, we expect you to analyze kan, to evaluate, to come up with your own justification. So benda tu semua melibatkan component of intelligence, right? Tapi untuk kanak-kanak kalau umur 8 tahun mungkin analyzing komponen dia dah ada dia punya standard orang kata bench lah. At least 8 tahun dia boleh mampu nak membuat analisis apa tu, hipotesis. Bila belajar tentang photosynthesis, okay, dia boleh tahu to analyze, right? And creative, inventing, designing kan, from one tools ataupun from one games ataupun binaan ke, dia boleh buat macam-macam. Of course, practical, applying and using. Okay, so Gardner, okay, another theory suggests there are 8 types of intelligence or frames of mind. Okay, so the intelligence are verbal. Okay, verbal ni macam ni lah, ability to think in words and use language. So mathematical ability to carry out mathematical operations, and spatial ability to think three-dimensionally. You bagilah dia design apa-apa ataupun any drawings kan, mungkin apa tu tunjuk something, bila draw tu dia can come up with a 3D or 4D punya type of ni. Mungkin bagi yang those yang high in verbal intelligence susah nak translate apa yang dia nampak tu ke dalam bentuk lukisan 3D. So tu kata intelligence ni berbeza. And bodily kinesthetic is ability to physically adapt, and musical sensitivity to pitch, melody, rhythm and tone. Interpersonal ability to understand and interact with others. Intrapersonal ability to understand oneself, and naturalist are the ability to observe patterns in nature. Okay, so this is according to Gardner. Right? So ni antara intipati ni lah, right? By Howard Gardner. Frames of mind. So ni you boleh baca lah. Tengoklah you punya intelligence tu more on which type, right? Ada yang mungkin dominantly nampak dia more on mathematics, right? Tapi in terms of body, all this art kind of thing tu, not so much on that lah. But bukan kata dia tak boleh langsung, given the chance, given the exposure and opportunity tu, dia boleh deliver, but it's not dominant lah, right? But all this it has to be kata balance lah, kalau kita dapat acquire semua kan, which is good lah. Alright, so interpreting differences in IQ scores, so the nature and nurture, okay, this has been debated, okay, continuously over the influence of genetic and the environment. So it needs two lah. For me, it has to be both. Okay, genetic saja you intelligent tak bermakna, tak cukup And more than thousands of genes could affect intelligence, each having small influence, right? And today, most researchers agree that genetics and environment interact to influence intelligence. So we need to modify to live in a good environment and to have a good exposure, to have a good experience and good communications that indicates a good person lah. All right. And many different environmental factors affect intelligence. Inilah tengoklah parental involvement, schooling kan, successful interventions. So those are the factors that affect intelligence. Okay. So disagreement remains over how strongly nature and nurture influence intelligence. And culture, macam tadi katalah, culture is cultural differences memang vary and it describe intelligence. So culture fair tests intended to be free of cultural bias. So two types have been devised, those that include items familiar to children of all socio-economic status and ethnic background, and those that have no verbal questions, right? So difficulty in creating culture fair tests is tests tend to reflect what the dominant culture thinks It is important. Okay, that's why kalau kata mana-mana ada alat scales, assessment tools that is culturally biased. So bila masuk ke setting, for example Malaysia, so we have to modify the item. For example, mungkin di US dia kata how frequently you adhere, you go to the church. So, kita tak boleh buat macam tu. So we need to modify according to our culture, and then we need to revalidate balik lah. Alright. And how many in terms of budaya kan, budaya minum, budaya, for example the sexual activity tu, so we need to modify it according to our setting lah yang bersesuaian. Okay, alright. Sternberg concludes that there can only be culture reduced tests. Ethnic variation. Okay, so using intelligence test, effectiveness of test depends on the knowledge, skill and integrity of the user. So some cautions: avoid stereotyping and preconceived expectation. Know that IQ is not a sole indicator of competence. Betul. Okay, and use caution in interpreting an overall IQ score. Right? Lepas tu buat IQ test ni is tedious. Bukan senang when we administer satu, when we give score satu, and when we interpret scoring pun, we must it has to be very extra careful lah. Okay, so intellectual disability is a condition of limited mental ability with a low IQ. So usually IQ test, IQ score below 70, and dia kalau dulu kita panggil dia terencah akal lah, below 70, 69 and below. Now we have changed the term to learning difficulties. And difficulty in adapting to the demands of everyday life, and this characteristic exhibited by age 18. Okay. Organic, intellectual, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, people who are gifted, ni yang genius usually dia punya IQ score is 130 above. So, they are born with a superior talent for something, right? So, Alan Wiener described 3 criteria that characterize gifted children: precocity, marching, and to their own drama, and passion to master. So gifted children also excel in information processing, and giftedness is likely a product of both heredity and environment. And highly gifted are typically not gifted in every domain, and some do not become gifted adults. So often gifted children are socially isolated in the classroom. All right. So changes in vocabulary, grammar, ni language lah, and metalinguistic awareness. Okay, so kita ingat lagi the process of development, the language development from baby macam mana, and then masuk kepada preschool, infancy, kepada preschool, and then kepada middle and late child. So children gain new skills in schools. Banyak skills that they acquire from the school environment, and they begin to categorize vocabulary. They started to know the imbuhan, okay, and then mastery increases with age. Learn to use language in a complex manner, and they have this meta-linguistic awareness, which is the knowledge about language, okay. Pragmatics become more formal, culturally appropriate use of language. And in terms of reading and writing, so how should children be taught to read? So that's why waktu kecil I started with bedtime story kan, ada ada session maybe 10 minutes reading with the family members kan. So itu adalah antara cara bagaimana kita nak expose anak-anak kepada reading, okay, and whole language approach. So reading instruction based on the idea that instruction should parallel children's natural language learning. Okay, make sure the reading materials to be somewhat interesting and it is meaningful for the children. Okay, and phonics approach reading instruction should teach basic rules for translating written symbols into sounds. Okay, so becoming a good reader means learning to read fluently. All right, so to start off, ask the child to read out loud. Okay, tak apa, dia tak faham. Mungkin umur-umur 4 tahun, 5 tahun, okay. But bila 6 tahun, test the comprehension. What do you understand? So mungkin budak dia baca tapi dia tak faham. So itu kita kena monitor closely lah, right? So reading efforts move beyond understanding the words to a focus on understanding the concepts of the text, right? Different, eh? And how do writing skills develop? Ini macam-macam lah. Starting the process by scribbling, kan? And then started expose them to write their name, okay? Tulislah, okay, what is your name? How to write your name? Start dengan tu dulu. Macam nama Adam, Akid, kan? Afrin. So ID ni I tengah start untuk my 5 years old ni. What is your name? Dia tahu sebut. Dia tahu tapi bila nak translate, okay, ada difficulty. So ambil masa. So kita ajar copy and paste, copy and paste. Actually, when you write, they copy, they look and they copy tu dah another skill involved, right? So an indicator kalau anak tu dia boleh baca, dia nampak, dia tahu okay, REA, tapi bila dia nak translate dalam writing tu dia ada difficulties, itu dah mungkin salah satu symptoms kepada learning difficulties. Right, dia nampak, dia boleh baca tapi dia ada ambil masa yang lama. So 5 years old reproduce letters and copy short words. So mungkin from the storybooks tu, from the flip card, apa tu kan, you minta dia okay, tulis balik apa perkataannya dia nampak. Right? So one way lah to develop writing skills. And becoming a good writer takes years and lots of practice. True, eh? You cannot unless you are born with that trait. Kan? Practice, practice and practice. And metacognitive strategies needed to be competent writer are linked with those required to be a competent reader. So dia memang tak boleh lari. You can be a good writer if you're only a good reader. You rajinlah membaca. Alright, selalu kan budak sekarang malah nak baca macam ni, nak buat karangan. Kan berkait tu, nampak? Kan? You don't know what is going on because you don't read. And then how can you write? Essays ke karangan ke kan? So ask that question. Encourage them to read. Anak-anak sekarang even nak lah adults pun they so susah nak galakkan, nak menyuburkan balik budaya membaca ni. And teachers play a critical role in students' development of writing skills, definitely. So dual language, second language learning. Okay, so sensitive periods for learning a second language likely vary across language systems. So adults learn faster than children, but children's final attainment level is higher. Okay, ability to learn to speak a second language with a native-like accent decreases dramatically with age. Kalau you hantar budak kecil pergi UK ke US, cepat je dia acquire that accent, British accent ke American ke apa. Kalau mungkin yang bila yang dewasa ni pergi, nak pergi cuti belajar, pergi negara yang sama pun, belum tentu lagi dia acquire that accent. Itulah maksudnya. So US is behind other developed countries in children learning a second language. Right, so dual language learning, ability to speak two languages, has positive effects on cognitive functioning and reading abilities. Okay, last one is I think, this is the last one I think, children's achievement. So of course, ni dah lebih kepada, nanti akan masuk kepada the social-emotional part lah. So intrinsic motivation, the intrinsic motivations, and of course, they need to blend together, okay, to make the person success or to achieve whatever that they have set the target, right? So extrinsic motivation, you tahulah rewards, segala apa benda yang in fact in terms of material, physical. So externally, and intrinsic motivation based on internal factors, your self-reward, your self-determination, your curiosity, kan, the way how you want to challenge yourself, kan? And of course, your effort. So once you emphasize self-determination, and motivation can be enhanced by creating engaging environments and encouraging self-responsibility. Alright, okay, ada lagi. So sustain attention, effort and task persistence. Nampaklah ni, it's important in school, work and a career. So apa saja yang you telah dididik, didedahkan from you punya pengalaman sekolah, parenting, the environment that you live in, your relationship with your friends, your peers, your teachers, that is the factor that determines who you are right now. And definitely it involves with you punya career lah, the person that you tend to be in the future, right? So benda-benda macam ni lah. And sustain attention, the ability to maintain attention to a selected stimulus for a prolonged period of time. Okay, so one study has suggested task persistence at 13 years of age is related to occupational success in middle age, kan? Kadang tanya budak sekolah rendah kan nak jadi apa ni, kadang ngarut je cita-cita. Mungkin bila dah naik sekolah menengah, dah ada pengalaman, dah terjumpa someone yang inspire, yang memberi motivasi tu, sudah nampak dah dia punya lorongan kehidupan ke arah yang mana. Okay, so mastery, motivation and mindset. So children who display mastery motivation are task oriented. So they focus on learning strategies and the process of achievement. Okay, ini waktu kecil lagi dah tahu, dah nampak dah tahu minat apa and then they remember and use what worked before. So children who have a helpless orientation are trapped by difficulty. So blame difficulties on lack of ability, they become anxious and failure becomes a reality. Okay, ini dia sekali berkait dengan that the parenting style of their parents lah, right? And performance orientation is a focus on outcomes and a belief that winning matters. Ada anak yang memang dilahirkan very competitive. Kadang benda tu pun kita tak rasa apa, tapi they have set the competitiveness kan. Mungkin kawan dia tak rasa apa, tapi dia nak kena dulu, dia nak kena menang kan. So kadang it's a silent competition that they have set in their intrinsically lah, right? So itu ada juga anak yang memang performance orientation, meaning parents dia bukan jenis yang put a very high expectation, kalau ni mesti kena win, kena first kan, tapi anak itu sendiri yang ada that orientation, that trait. So mindset is the cognitive view of oneself. And fixed mindset, they believe that qualities are carved in stone and cannot change. So similar to helpless orientation, tak guna buat apa pun tak jadi, sama je kan, tak ada apa pun baik tak payah buat, that kind of fixed mindset. And growth mindset is always, it's blooming in fact. So it once believe that qualities can change and effort can improve performance. So growth mindset is equal to mastery orientation, right? So it's between mastery orientation and the helpless orientation, right? Okay, another one is self-efficacy, is the belief that one can master a situation and produce favorable outcomes. Okay, self-efficacy lah, efficacy sendiri and influences activity choices. So goal setting, planning, semua ni yang ada dalam tadi executive functioning, metacognition so you boleh baca lah. Okay, social relationship, nanti kita akan elaborate more on in the next topic social emotional. And thank you. Okay. Alright. Semua okay ke?
Okay.
Okay, Doktor.
I tak bagi bedtime story dekat you all. Memang kata kena baca, kena ingat, kena but I hope that it's not only going to be a working memory for you guys. I hope that it's gonna be your long term your long term memory nanti. Alright. So pukul apa sekarang? Oh belum pukul 10. Okay. So kalau tak ada apa-apa, I think we stop the class because actually tomorrow I have a talk on it's actually on assessment tools. We are
Masuk TV tak?
tak. Talk ni budak pelajar master buat.
Tapi lockdown kan?
Apa dia?
Hari Selasa ni total lockdown kan?
Seriously?
Baru keluar berita tadi. Start 1 Jun sehingga 14 Jun.
Okay, so berapa orang boleh keluar?
Satu. Macam mana? 2 orang boleh keluar tapi seorang je yang masuk ni.
Kalau pergi
Kalau
pasar raya seorang je kan boleh masuk?
seorang je.
Habis tu total lockdown ni kita boleh buat kelas tak?
Boleh sebab online kelas kan. Dia cuma buka ni je macam PKP1. Essential dengan ekonomi je.
Apa beza dengan sekarang?
Sekarang ni semua ekonomi boleh buka kan. Nanti yang 1 bulan ni dia ada certain ekonomi je yang boleh buka.
Okay.
Mungkin kedai-kedai kecil tu tak boleh buka kot.
Kedai-kedai rambut semua tu tak boleh lah kan?
Tak boleh. Kedai handphone semua tak boleh kot.
Okay, you all top up lah banyak-banyak
Top up online ni.
Okay, thank you for the info, Mas. Alright. I pun tak tahu. Okay, kalau tak ada and tomorrow punya talk, pelajar master under khusus Dr. Wan Syarazad, Profesor Madya Dr. Wan Syarazad, they are conducting a webinar actually. So first session tu will be Dr. Fatimah Wati, Prof. Madya Dr. Fatimah Wati and dia punya colleague, one of the lecturer from UiTM. So they will be discussing on personality test. So 16 PF, all these big 5 kan. So after that break and then my session together with my ex-supervisee. So she is now a clinical psychologist, grad 2018 and baru grad 2020. Satu baru ni. So I invited her, Iman, Kuldia Iman, to share about ni lah, GHQ, General Health Questionnaire, DAS and also BDI, Back Depression Inventory. So I need to take my time untuk nak revise balik lah. Actually dah semalam dah go throughout dengan Iman tu. So mungkin kejap lagi nak prepare sikit. So saya minta diri untuk undur diri Saya mohon untuk
Doktor.
Ya.
Doktor, maaf saya nak tanya tentang rubrik kerja individu ada ke doktor? Dan juga kumpulan.
Kerja kumpulan ada kumpulan saya ada rubriknya. Tetapi kerja individu nanti I bagi sekali 2 lah.
Okey doktor, sebab dekat versi UKM Folio tak tahu yang lama ke doktor upload, dia ada tambah part packaging tapi hari tu yang doktor bentang tak ada part packaging kan?
Boleh. I bagi yang new one, yang ni lah, maknanya ada 2 individual and tugasan. Kalau kata I tak bagi by next week, please remind me again.
Alright doktor, thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
So, untuk kelas next week nanti macam ni lah I bagi dekat dekat Telegram on the time lah. But we are not going to have a class on Tuesday morning, kejap I check. Sebab dah keluar jadual untuk next week. Selasa pagi tu memang I dah ada slot. Dasar pembangunan dan hala 7 negara. Okay. So, I kena memikirkan hal negara pula. So, tak ada kelas pagi Selasa. Kita akan jumpa. I'll see you when I see you. I akan update you guys on the time. Alright?
Okay.
Okay. So, have a good weekend guys. Stay safe.
Doktor.
Ya.
Esok doktor punya talk esok ada link tak?
Saya akan from StreamYard. I'm not sure dia orang akan link kepada Facebook Live. Tapi yang itu kena register. Kan yang I pernah post my poster before Raya tu. And actually, you tahu tak, there are about 550 registered already as of last week. So it's not only our students, not UKM students, and the lecturers from various university, they have opened up to their students as well. And in fact, practitioner, so doakanlah I dengan Iman tu boleh
Itu talk aja ke conference dah 500 lebih.
That's why, because topik tu yang memang macam ni lah, dia macam it's on about, mungkin you all pun semua tertanya-tanyakan, so apa beza ni dengan ni, macam ni nak diagnose ni, adakah alat ni cukup untuk nak memberi diagnosis orang ni depression kan. So it's very technical, and for my session we are both clinical psychologists, so we are both practitioners. So I memang panggil my student tu untuk share balik lah. So duo dengan I lah esok. But I'm not sure nanti Aisyah, I tanya dia ni kalau kata dia ada recording, I boleh share the link lah dekat you all, mungkin you all boleh dengar later on. Ataupun I akan letak poster tu dekat Telegram. Kalau you all sempat register, sempat join, please do so lah.
Okay, thank you Doktor.
Alright, so have a good night, good sleep. Alright.
All the best.
Thank
Take care.
you. Thank
All
you.
the best Doktor.
Okay.
Thank you, Doktor.
Thank you Doktor.
Thank you, Doktor.
Welcome.
Thank you, Doktor.
Bye. Thank you, Doktor.
Welcome. Welcome. Bye-bye. Okay, I leave me. I end meeting for all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Doktor.
Go. Bye. Welcome.